Good evening and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun Benzion. Tonight is a really important shir. You're going to want to hear this. Talks about the famous Shas concept of Brera over here. I started to give this shir, and then I think it was a locust or something that started flying around over here. Thank God it landed for a second. I was able to kill it. Um, I can imagine the plague of locusts in Egypt. Must have been pretty awful. These things fly around pretty fast, pretty big. Um, anyway, this concept of Brera, the Gemara's maskana on Chavav and Aleph at the end of this sugya is that according to at least Rameir or Shimon or Yehuda, and probably according to Rabbi Yossi also, all Tanoim really hold that in the case Mido Rice, a case where you have a barrel of wine that is Tevel, we assume it's Tevel, Mido Rice, and you have to take a Shumas Maisos, but it's Shabbos. Shabbos you can't take a Shumas Maisos. So right before Shabbos, you don't have places to put the Shumas Maisos. So what you do is you make a declaration. You say, I'm not taking out Shumas Meiser right now, but whatever, I'm going to drink from the barrel on Shabbos. After Shabbos, when I'm allowed to be mafresh Shumas Meiser, whatever's left, I'll drink half of it. And then after Shabbos, I'll take it's 100 lugin. I'll take 2 lugin for Truma. I'll take 10 lugin for Meiser Rishon. I'll take 9 lugin for Meiser Sheni. And retroactively, after Shabbos, when he takes off that for Truma, we say that was already part of his hafrasha before Shabbos. It's a concept called brera, because Trumas and Maisos you have to be direct. You have to say which part. We're going to talk about this in a second. When you do it, when you're mafresh Trumas and Maisos, it's a mais, it's an action. It's a halachic action. It's not something you just pay someone money. It's a halachic action, and therefore there's a maise and there's a halos. Talk about in yeshivas a lot, and we talked about that by shlichus that atem gam atem l'rabu shluchachem. The shliach you create by truma, the mafresh truma. You can't make a non-Jewish a shliach the mafresh truma for you, because he's not part of Torah and mitzvahs. To make someone a shliach where he's acting in your stead, right? To be mafresh trumas ma'asos, or to give an scene of a get, the shliach has to be someone who's acting as your persona instead of you, not just someone who's just doing a task for you, and whatever they do is attributed back. It has to be you're giving over your persona to the shliach. It has to be someone who's similar to you. If he's a non-Jew, he's not somebody. And one of the limud is from truma. Truma, when you're mafresh truma, it has to be a hafrasha that a Jew did. And to make a non-Jew my shliach, I can't do that. He's not bnei bris. He's not part of Torah. So that's what hafrasha truma really is. So how could I make hafrasha truma now on Friday afternoon if I'm actually going to do the hafrasha on Motzei Shabbos? So the answer is that it relies on a concept of brera. We say on Motzei Shabbos, when I took off those 2 lugin for Truma, that's what I meant. Those exact 2 lugin, what I meant when I said I'm mafresh Truma on Erev Shabbos. That's what I meant. Exactly those 2. How do we know it's exactly those 2? Because you rely on a concept of brera. Brera means huvra delam afresh, retroactively. Somehow Hashem works it out that it was those 2 lugin that you mentioned, that you intended for. That's what brera is. Brera assumes that. And that's midoraisa. The only reason Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda and Reb Yossi argue is because the Gemara says at the end, is because Gzeir D'Rabbanan, they're worried the barrel's going to break. The wine's going to spill on the floor. There's going to be no wine at all. And then I can't separate any Shuvas and Maisville. So therefore, retroactively, when I drank the wine, I drank Tevel. I drank thing that was untithed. So that's a problem. But midoraisa would work. Now the problem is that it's very clear from our Mishnah, the last Mishnah on the beginning of the parak, the first Mishnah in the parak says the 4th case of pasal get is where I say to the scribe, I say I have 2 wives. Their names are both Rachel. I say I'm divorcing both of them. Whichever wife I choose as a divorce, I'm telling the scribe, write it for that one. Right? There's a din of lishma. I have to write it for that woman, and here I don't know. I haven't decided yet who I'm gonna divorce. So then, if I try to divorce one of them later, it's possible. Why? Because you have to do it lishma, and we don't say brera. We don't say retroactively. The Gemara Klapasan Rav Yochanan and Chav Hamid Aleph, and like the Mishnah, the Stam Mishnah says that it doesn't work. Stam Mishnah is usually Red Meir. Meir clearly says there's brera. And Stam Mishnah here, according to Tanakama, or probably Red Meir, probably all the Tanaim agree that there's no brera over it. We don't say brera, that whichever woman I decided the get works for. Why not? Why not? So what do we conclude? Do we always say brera midoraisa? Not say brera midoraisa. From Gittin it seems not, but from Truma it seems yes. The answer I believe I'm not sure what the other Rishonim say. I think it's a famous question, but my answer to this is as follows. I would say that it's very similar when we talk about Safek Deraisa L'Chumra. We've talked about this numerous times, that there's conflicting opinions. The Rambam and the Rashba, two major Rishonim. What is the din in Safek Deraisa? Do we say the din in Safek Deraisa, you go L'Chumra? The Gemara says you go L'Chumra. Do we say you go L'Chumra Midaraisa or you go L'Chumra Midarabana? Now, obviously there's a case where you go L'Chumra Midaraisa, but in Asham Tala. In Asham Tala, the korban you bring when you're not sure if I did a chait, a sin, which it warrants a korban chatas. I'm not sure if I did that sin or not. You bring an asham tole. So therefore, it's clear that Safek Deraisa L'Chumra Midaraisa. The Rambam says it's only talking about a case where you have, let's say, two pieces of meat. One is chaylev, right, forbidden fat, which I bring a korban chatas for, and one is shuman. So since it's this chazik isur, there's definitely an isur over there. So therefore, L'Chumra, we go L'Chumra Midaraisa, you have to bring an asham tole. But if it was just one piece of meat, and you're not sure if there is even a piece of chaylev over there, so then you wouldn't bring an asham tole. And I believe the Rambam and the Rashba are not arguing. They're really just talking about two different cases. Where it's this chazik isura, where we're dealing with a status quo of isur, we can't change that. If you're a mesupok, a 50-50 suffix, I can't change a chazaka. We have a status quo, I can't change the chazaka. If it's a piece of chayla over there, I can't assume that I didn't eat the chayla. And here also by Gerushin, right? He's married to the woman. There's a cheskas nisuin, they're married, right? The question is, their status is the woman's married now. The question is she megureshes or not? Has her status changed from being she's only mutter to this man to mutaras l'chol adam, right? Has her status changed or not? Since there's a ches chazak over here, Safek Deraisa L'Chumra, right? We go Deraisa L'Chumra. Brera is essentially a suffix. That's what it is. It remains a suffix according to the end of the Gemara. It's a suffix. But when it is a chazaka, so therefore Safek Deraisa L'Chumra, you go L'Chumra Midaraisa because you can't change the chazaka. The case of Truma, when you have Tevel, the famous case where all the Tanaim rule that really midaraisa, we would say Brera, that's talking about a case where it's untithed, where it's Tevel. Now Tevel, it's a discussion on what exactly Tevel is. How do we look at it conceptually? Do we look at Tevel to be that the Trumas and Maïs is already mixed in? Or do we look at Tevel that it's not even, it's just a separate Isser, don't eat Tevel, there's no Trumas and Maïs already. And really the halacha is, it can't be that Tevel actually has Trumas and Maishas mixed in, because we know if you eat Tevel, you're not Chayav Misa B'dei Shemayim. If you eat Truma, that belongs to a Kohen, it's already Hofresh Truma, you're Chayav Misa B'dei Shemayim. For Tevel, you're not. It could be it's a lav in the Torah, but you're definitely not Chayav. Misa B'dei Shemayim. So, therefore, for sure, there's no Cheskas Isser over here by Tevel. There's no Cheskas Truma. There's no Cheskas Truma. There's no status quo of Truma. As I mentioned, Truma, Hafresh Truma, you're changing something. You're making something which is not holy, and you're making something into Truma, which is only mutter to the Kohanim. It's a Maisa and a Chalos, we prove from Shlichus. You have to do something, you have to do halachically valid, change it. You have to change the status from not holy, not consecrated, to Truma, which is only allowed to Kohanim, which is holy, only allowed to Kohanim. There's certain halachas that apply only Truma. So, therefore, when it comes to the case, Alokech Yayim Ben Akusim, which all the Tanaim basically rule, midaraisa, there is Brera. Again, it's a suffix over there, but there's no cheskas truma over there. So therefore, do we assume Brera works or not? So it's a suffix. We leave it as a suffix, but it's Safek Deraisa L'Chumra, it's Safek Deraisa without a cheskas iser, So therefore, in Safek Deraisa L'Chumra, you go L'Chumra midarabanan sometimes, but in other cases where it's a case of Brera, so even the Rabbanan were in Machmir in that case, because we know there's a concept in the Torah of Koach De'ater Adif, that if there's two equal possibilities, one possibility could be it's Mutter, one possibility could be Asr. The Gemara says in Beis on that Beis on Beis that Koach De'ater Adif, that generally we side with the more Mekel. Even Midaraisa, you start with the more Mekel. That's why Safek Deraisa L'Chumra, if there's no Chazik Yisur, is basically they're Rabbanan. Sometimes they're Machmir, sometimes they weren't Machmir over here. And that's actually the Machlokas, or a Meir holds we're not Machmir. And the other Rabbanan hold we are Machmir because maybe the node will break, and that's why. So they could choose when they're Machmir, when they're not. In this case, they didn't have to be Machmir. That's really what it comes down to. We do hold of Brera. Brera is basically a suffix. It's undecided. We can't really figure out what retroactively does it define it or not. So when there's a cheskas isser, we go l'chumra midaraisa. When there's no cheskas isser, we go l'kula. I think that's a pretty nice summary to figure it out, to answer this apparent contradiction. Hope you enjoyed tonight's share. See you in the next one.